Hello and welcome to the video. This video I'm going to be talking about this model here. This is the EMAX BabyHawk R Pro. Now for those of you that have been around for a little while, you'll know that this isn't the first BabyHawk that I've got. I actually bought this one. This is the 3-inch version. Still have it here. It's a fab model and flies beautifully. This is the one that has the 3-inch props, so it does mean that it flies for quite a long time. So there's obviously been a little bit of updating going on, because now we actually have 2 in the family, and this is the one that I want to talk about. So in this video, what I'm going to do is very quickly go through the specs, talk about what's changed, what's new on this model, show you some images, talk about how it comes boxed up. You can actually see the box behind me. There it is. It isn't particularly big, it isn't particularly robust, but it did protect it in shipping. Show you how it's set up in Betaflight. The modern versions of this apparently are coming in Betaflight 3.5. Mine unfortunately has come with a slightly older version, so I might update it, but then I might not. Hang on to the end of the video to find what that's about, and then I'll show you some images of it flying and do a summary at the end. So the first thing to talk about is to talk about what has actually changed. So on this new BabyHawk R Pro, it's a completely new frame and a new cage. The frame itself, rather than being in multiple different parts as it was on the original BabyHawk, is now one big piece of carbon fiber, and I've had quite a few tumbles on this little thing and it just has shrugged them off. Different motors on this too. These kind of open bottomed version of the little EMAX 1106 6000 kV motors with these really aggressive EMAX Rush 2.5 inch props. Initially I thought these looked amazingly wacky, but the more I look at them, the more they look to me like the wing of a bird, and they do perform fantastically well. And you know what, they're pretty bulletproof too. You get 2 complete sets in the box. I'll show you that in a minute. Motor spacing is a little bit smaller than the original. It's 120 millimeters versus the 136 millimeters on that 3-inch model that I just showed you. The ESCs in this one are an awful lot bigger. They're 4 times 25 amp BL Heli 32 D-Shot 600 capable ESCs, and they will pull quite a bit of power and get this thing moving at one heck of a pace. Flight controller is an M4 Mini Magnum. It's running a Maytech 405 target. I'll show you that in a minute in Betaflight. 2 little addressable LEDs at the back. Cadix S1 CCD camera at the front. Works very nicely indeed. Got a little bit of flying footage I'll show you in a minute in the sunshine and also in an overcast day, and it coped amazingly well, allowing me to shoot and play around with the football goalposts. And the other thing as well is the rake available on the camera is dramatically increased with the new canopy as well. So you can go from about 20 degrees to pretty close to 90 degrees. So if you want to fly this fully cranked over, it's going to allow you to do that. So let me show you how it comes in the box. Again, the box came a little bit squashed. I ordered this one from Banggood. I'll put a link in the description so you can go and have a look at the exact one that I've got here. The box took a little bit of beating, so thank you to the shipping people who obviously put it underneath something pretty heavy, but opening it up, everything was fine. The foam inside and the bit that was squashed was where the propellers are, so nothing was damaged. All you have to do to set it up is to attach the props, but before you do that, you're going to have to set up your radio model and bind the receiver. The receiver is going to need D8 protocol, so make sure you haven't got the EU button ticked when you flash the firmware onto your FrSky radio. Then you'll be able to select D8 to bind to it, although you could very easily put in a real FrSky receiver in this. To get to the bind button, you are going to have to take the canopy off, so be prepared to do that. I also took the opportunity to reroute some of the cables, so the antenna was coming out of the front and the video transmitter antenna was coming out the back. Nice to see an MMCX connector on the video transmitter. The video transmitter itself is kind of a half board. This is a 20mm flight stack here, ESCs at the bottom, flight stack above that, and then a little half board video transmitter capable of 25 and 200 milliwatts, and also fully integrated into the flight controller, so you can change everything from the on-screen display. And then on top of that is the little FrSky compatible receiver too. Let me just run through what the Betaflight setup looks like. This is absolutely stock and default out of the box. No big surprises in here at all. One of the things that I really like about this It does have those two little LEDs on the flight controller at the back. That does help with orientation and finding it in dusk when you come down in long grass and it's pointing upwards. But it also has a nice loud buzzer on it as well, which is brilliant. Being able to flick that buzzer and be able to give that audible clue to help you find this thing, because invariably mine always seems to land upside down. As soon as it's landed upside down, then the antennas are kind of sandwiched between the model and the ground, and I kind of lose my RSSI and lose pretty much everything, including the video image too. One last tip, make sure that auxiliary 5 is set as your RSSI channel. The little receiver that's in here is sending out the RSSI value on that channel. By default, that wasn't set on mine. I just tweaked that to auxiliary 5, and then you can get the RSSI information showing on your screen. So once I'd done that, it was time to charge a battery. I initially tried it on the 550 Eachine batteries that my 3-inch BabyHawk loves, and took it to the field and had a couple of problems. You can see from this video, it was twitching and rolling about. The buzzer was occasionally going off. So I wondered if I was having a problem with the battery. So brought it back, popped on another battery. This one is a 650 milliamp hour 3S battery from Race Day Quads. I went to see the guys at Race Day Quads when I was over in Orlando in the summertime. What a lovely bunch of guys. And I did buy a couple of batteries for things like this. So popping that one in, it's got a much higher C rating. It was a lot happier. But going back to the field, still having issues with that uncommanded twitch. So it's not just the battery, there's something else going on here. So I then had to bring it back, took it completely apart, layer by layer, double checking every single connection, make sure nothing was shorting, make sure that everything was nice and tight. A couple of things I found. The ground wire on the receiver wasn't particularly well soldered. Not horrendous, but I redid that. I also made sure that everything was nice and tight. It is kind of anti-vibration mounted at the bottom for the flight controller stack, but a couple of the risers felt a little bit loose. So once I was happy that all the soldering was good, put all that back together, and also put a little bit of heat shrink around the receiver. The receiver tends to move a little bit once you put the canopy on, and I wanted to make sure that nothing was shorting out or getting a problem on there too. Once I'd gone through and give it the painless 360 treatment, back to the field, and it flew fantastically well. So hopefully from this image you can see how nicely it's performing. It's an overcast day, little bit of wind, but these kind of little quadcopters don't seem to give a hoot about that. It's running on that 650 milliamp hour battery, hovering only about a quarter throttle, probably slightly under that, and behaving beautifully. On the goggles, I'm using a linear antenna, and I'm also using the linear patch, the Bandicoot from Menace RC, and getting some pretty decent range. And normally with things like this, you know, I'm flying around and I get a little bit of altitude, and I couldn't help myself. It's one of those little models exactly like its bigger brother with a 3-inch. If there's anything to fly through on the field, then that's exactly what you want to do. Battery time on this, it does burn through an awful lot more battery, so as well as having a decent battery on it with a decent C rating, you also are going to have to set your timer for about 4.5 to 5 minutes. Just flying around like this, I wasn't full out by any stretch of the imagination. I was only getting about 4.5 minutes, just over 4.5 minutes. If you were flying it like you stole it, you're probably going to need to set the timer on the radio to about 3.5 minutes. So in summary, what do I think? Well, EMAX certainly seem to be doing their homework. The EMAX Hawk 5 that I looked at a while ago was a fantastic model. The BabyHawk was something that I saw at the Mini Air Show down at Popham Airfield, and that was something that I fly on a regular basis. It's one of my top 2 favourite little quadcopters. This BabyHawk R Pro 2.5 5-inch little quadcopter is definitely keeping up with the rest of them. It's beautifully spec'd. All the bits and pieces inside work really nicely, apart from that little weirdness that I had. I don't know if mine was made on a Friday night just before they all knocked off and went to the pub, but with a little quick rebuild and a double check of everything, it was flying absolutely fine. The tune is pretty good too, it feels quite locked in. Might not be aggressive for some, but if you're buying this, you're probably going to buy it because you want something that's going to move pretty quickly, and you're probably going to know your way around a PID loop. Couple of things to consider, of course. First of all, is that is a lot shorter flight time. You're going to get 3.5 to 4.5 minutes out of a 650 milliamp hour 3S pack. And remember, it is a D8 receiver in here, so you're going to have to make sure you've got D8 protocol on your radio, or swap it out for one of the little thumbnail sized receivers from FR Sky instead. That linear antenna does mean that I would always recommend putting a linear antenna and also a linear patch on the goggles. That will give you the best possible reception as you're hooting about. Later versions ship with Betaflight 3.5. As we saw in my setup, I didn't get that. It was Betaflight 3.3 point something, but it's working fine. And the last thing is it doesn't come with any batteries. There are spare props, but you're going to need at least 2 or 3 LiPo packs, because otherwise you're going to trog all the way to the field and get 2 or 3 minutes of fun and then going to have to come all the way home. Last thing to talk about here, this is a quadcopter that's really meant for out and out racing and flying like a hooligan. And I already have a BabyHawk here that I love, that 3-inch version. So this one needs to find a new home. So for all of you that stayed right to the very end, I'm doing a giveaway. So please make sure that you're liking the video, that you're a subscriber of mine, and put the words EMAX BabyHawks Rock in your comment. And then I will pick one of those comments that have those 3 words in it in a couple of weeks from now. And this little EMAX BabyHawk R Pro can find a home with somebody that's going to fly it like they stole it all the time. Thank you for taking the time to watch that video, and particularly for watching right to the very end. We try and release a video on Tuesday and Friday, and sometimes we'll release 1 or 2 extra ones in a week as well. All of the videos on the channel are organised into easy to use playlists, so do have a look in there, because if you're interested in a subject, we organise all the videos on that subject so you can find them easily all together in one place. If you like what we're doing, then please like and subscribe and tell others about the channel so they can come and join as well. We're available in all of the usual social media places, particularly in places like Instagram, Twitter, and we also share all of our 3D designs on Thingiverse.